A lot of the foolishness that we have today is a result of bad parenting, bad leadership, no leadership at all. And I kind of blame fathers because even though there are other factors within raising children, I think fathers need to step it up so we can create that discipline within the household, within our children, especially our sons, because they're going out here and they have no respect for women. They have no respect for men. They have no respect, period. And I don't understand why we don't see it's on us as adults, as parents, to kind of curve what's going on in society. What is going on, everyone's? We are here and we are back with another episode of
Is My Point Valid?
Yes, indeed. And before we get into this, my name is Brandon D.
And I am Camille A. Stocker.
And make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe. It helps us grow. We really appreciate everybody who tunes in with us on a weekly basis. But we're going to go ahead and get into this episode with
It Begins at Home.
Yes, it does. And we've been making a lot of statements about parents raising their own children. And I seen in one of my comments, a person told me that they don't want to raise children in this world. And that suggests a few things for me. First, it says that you don't even plan on raising your own children. You are going to allow the world to lead your child. And then aside from that, when has the world ever been better than it is now? Has the world ever been good per se to raise a child? Or is it on us as parents to lead our children and stop allowing them to go out in the world and be led by what everyone sees as cool?
I think it's always been good to raise your children in anything. I was watching an interview with this guy, Bob Woodson, and he was on, I can't remember. It's a popular podcast, but it just caught my attention. And he was saying how in the 20s and the 30s, that's when everything was prospering. You look at it as like, oh, this was segregation and all these things, but the economy was prospering. And you look at 2023, you see all the negative things that are being portrayed. And because we are looking at that, we lose full identity of what it is to raise children, of what it is to be a complete family unit with a husband, a wife, and children to come along. We take things into our own hands and say, I won't bring children into this world because they're not going to benefit from it. But why would they not benefit from this? You know, I always go back to, we were created to procreate, multiply. That is what we were here to do. So when we women make the decision to say, I am not going to do this because this is going to mess up my life, or I can't see my child going out into the world and dealing with people, but we deal with people every day. So what is the difference? If we are not changing our mindsets on how we should be treating people, or what's coming out of our mouths, or what we are consuming off of social media, you are the responsible one to change that if you don't want your child subject to that.
I think it all starts on an individual basis. We all as individuals have to do better, because we can't expect someone else or even a group of people to do better if we're not taking that responsibility upon ourselves. And if you're not doing that, then of course you're going to have children who are not doing that as well. They're going to get out here in this world, and a lot of the foolishness that we have today is a result of bad parenting, bad leadership, no leadership at all. And I kind of blame fathers, because even though there are other factors within raising children, I think fathers need to step it up so we can create that discipline within the household, within our children, especially our sons, because they're going out here and they have no respect for women. They have no respect for men. They have no respect, period. And I don't understand why we don't see it's on us as adults, as parents, to kind of curve what's going on in society.
Yeah, to go back to Bob Woodson, y'all should Google him and look him up. His story is interesting. But his father died when he was 9. And so this was during the Great Depression, the 40s, because he was born in 1937. So his father died when he was 9. And so he said the community that he grew up in, it was poor or whatever, but they helped each other. And so when his father died, the men in the community would step in and make sure that he was doing what he was supposed to do. So he still had that influence of a man. And so that comes to us having excuses today. Well, you know, I can't do this, or I won't do this, or whatever. It's always an excuse. Yeah. Or I don't know how my child is learning this, or, you know, I can't, or it's a lot of excuses, and we don't stand up and take the responsibility to say, okay, this child was given to me to take care of in this amount of space. In this amount of time. We don't own our children. That, you know, I can't think of the saying that it is. We're like borrowing them because we have to give them back, right? We have to give them back. We are to train up a child in the way that they should go. And we aren't training them correctly.
Yeah, we aren't training them at all. And then, like I said before, that's the reason why they act the way they do. They have no training, no home training, no discipline. So it's almost like anything goes.
And so when you say training, people are like, you're just talking about a dog. No, like you.
It's a similar concept, though.
But you do have people, because at the beginning you said how people don't want to bring children into the world.
Into this world,
But you will find a dog and you will treat that dog. This is my child. No, it's an animal, right? This is an animal, and an animal is going to die. The animal's not going to do anything for society. You can come for me, whatever. I don't care. It's an animal. Would I appreciate to have a dog to love and bark? Sure. Cool. That's a pet.
But
cool.
at the end of the day.
But at the end of the day, I know that I have 2 beautiful little girls who God is allowing me to
eventually
raise,
contribute to society.
Who I don't know whether they're going to be engineers or architects, or if they're going to be the best homemakers or the best bakers. I don't know. But from the things that I am teaching, they have a plethora of things to choose from.
Yeah.
To get into, you want to be a fashion designer. You want to be a runway. Like all these things are options. But if I told myself, no, it's just going to be me and my husband, I'm not going to have any children. Well, I think that's like a miserable life. And that's my opinion, but I think that's a miserable life. Now, is everybody set up to have children? No, but it's rewarding.
Absolutely.
It's rewarding to get to, is it tiring as a parent? Yeah, because you're teaching someone something, and they have to you have to continually teach something so that they can get it. And the point of you repeating things is for them to go out into the world, and for them to look back and say, oh, I remember when. Because if you watch us enough, you always hear me say about my mama and my daddy and what it is that I got from this, what it was. At the time, I didn't see it as this, this mind thing. Oh, here they go, just telling me what to do.
Yeah. They just want to be my boss.
I never felt like that, but because I complied as a child. But sometimes it was just like, why?
It all starts to make sense once you get into that position.
Why are you saying this? Why are you putting these things in front of me? What is this? What does this mean? And so you look back on that, and that is the goal for legacy. We talk about legacy a lot, to build that legacy. So it begins at home. You cannot want your children to be salt and light in a public school, in a private school, on the playground. They're young. They don't know to be the salt and the light yet. In Matthew 5:14, I believe it's Matthew 5:14, he tells us to be the salt and the light, and that is to give the word of God to the people and fight, put your armor on and go to battle.
Be covered in the blood.
Children cannot do that. So it is left up to us, parents, to say, okay, this is what you're going to do, and this is what you're not going to do. You have 2 options. One is this and one is that, but you don't have a lot on the table to choose from.
You can't expect your children to know some things that you don't. So, like I said, accountability on the adult. The adult has to learn and know certain things so they can teach their children how to be better than they were. It's all about improvement. If you're not putting in the time to help your child improve from what your best was, then we're doing ourselves and our children an injustice, because they're out here lost.
And it's an excuse to say, well, I didn't grow up that way, so I don't know what to do. So figure it out. You find you a support group or fellowship group who is doing the things that you want to do, and you probably don't know how to do it. So you surround yourself in that environment to be a better parent, to be a better human. And when you become a better human and you are displaying this, because I don't think it's ever too late to be better.
As long as you still here, it's always time.
Like, it's never a terrible opportunity to be like, okay, well, today I have to do better. Like, the heck. And when you apply yourself to meeting up with people, if it's families together, the dads meet together, moms meet together, or whatever it is, if you're a single mom and you want to learn what the requirement, not even the requirements, what it is, how, I want to be married eventually, like these things, put yourself in those environments and build. And then that is also what is the word I'm looking for? What your child sees. What is the word that I am looking for? It's like your child is watching you, and they're saying, okay, well, mommy's doing better. Now I can, and this is funny too, I can respect her, or daddy's doing better. I can respect him because he's telling me to do this, and I see him applying, or I see him or her applying that. Mm-hmm. If you're reading a book, well, guess what? Your child will probably read a book too.
Because they're led by what they see. And I went back, I said this in other episodes, how parents would be like, do as I say and not as I do. But it doesn't work like that. Parents, we have to physically show our children what needs to be shown, because you can tell them all day, and if they don't see you doing it, they're gonna be like, well, you ain't doing it, so why should I? And you're a hypocrite because you're telling me to do it and then you're doing something else. So that physically showing them, that's why we have to be better as adults, as parents, and stop allowing everyone in the world to lead our children, because they mimic the things that they see the most from the people they trust the most. So if you have no trust, if your children don't trust you enough to do the things that you say or do the things that you are telling them to do, then they're not going to do them either. But if they have the trust in a school or their friends or anything like that, then that's the things that they're going to do. And a lot of times their friends aren't the ones that they need to be taking advice from. Their teachers aren't the ones that they need to be taking advice from. We see what's going on in the public schools, and that goes for the teachers and the other students. So we cannot allow public schools, outside influences, any of that to steer our children in whatever way that they're trying to steer them in. We need to have principles, values, goals, and all those things so we can instill that into our own children. So when they get out into the world, they already have a mind of what needs to be done and how to go about doing it. So it's on the parents. It begins, like you said, it begins in the home or at the home. And from there, we can start to build a better society, because it seems like parents are getting worse and worse. Now, not granted, it's not all parents, and I can't speak for the majority, but from what I see, my belief is that a lot of parents are taking the hands-off approach. They're giving these children so much autonomy to do whatever they feel, whatever they want to do, and they just back their children up. And we need to get back to children being led by the parents. Parents need to lead. Parents do not need to listen to their children and what they feel and then run with it. It should not work like that. I believe if we start doing these things, then society will slowly increase, because I really don't feel like we have a lot of time, like here on this earth. I feel like we need to start doing things now, because a time will come when none of this matters. So while we're here, we need to raise better children. We need to put sane ideas. We need to speak doctrine. We need to speak all things truth and stop allowing these children to think and do what they feel.
I think it's kind of past that, because if you look, I don't know if y'all watch like PragerU, their shorts or whatever, and they go into colleges, and children, I'm saying children, they're children.
They're children.
Yeah, and college, they don't know
basics.
They don't know basics. And I'm confused because it's like, how are you going to this expensive college?
Yeah.
How did you make it through high school? What were the requirements in the schools? Like what was happening? And so you get why people say you get the sentiment of why people are saying, well, I don't want to have children because they're going to end up like that.
Yeah.
But they won't end up like that if you have that approach on them to say, hey, if you know, everybody can't homeschool, but I would push for homeschooling.
Yeah.
And I push for homeschooling because of the freedom. I push for homeschooling because I believe that people are doing the right thing to have the point of homeschooling is to have your children think for themselves, not you tell them what to think.
Yeah.
And so when you watch the shorts or whatever with these university children, they have been told what to think. And so they are regurgitating something that they might have heard, you know, in a class by the professor. Mm-hmm. And it's showing on camera. And it's like, well, how old is the professor, right? How old is, or why does this professor believe this or pushing this agenda? And, you know, there are a lot of liberal colleges that are doing this, and it's interesting. It's it's just interesting. So you can be that change. You can teach history, right? And people look at homeschooling like, you're not qualified because I know my children the best.
Absolutely.
I know what's going to make them sad, all these things. I know how far I can push and when I need to back off. Like, I know those things. And along the way of homeschooling, I'm learning so much. You think I was this open-eyed person of everything with different perspectives, take everybody's perspective no. Once I started homeschooling, my thoughts began to change. I was always a reader, but when you really read to find out,
read to understand, when you start reading biographies that were written, are they autobiographies? Autobiographies. Yeah,
by themselves. They were written.
Yeah.
If you read George Washington's, if you read Ben Franklin's, these men wrote in journals, right? So you can find it and read them. And so you're seeing it first account. You're not looking at Howard Zinn or the guy who wrote Things Your Teachers Didn't Tell You or whatever. You are reading them firsthand. And so that, for me, it's like, that's at home as well. I mean, a lot of these things it begins at home for my children, from, like I said, from history all the way to baking to sewing. Those things are being taught. And also with society, they think that these things are terrible if you're learning these type of skills. Our children need those skills. These are skills that I did not learn. Like I think I've said in a previous episode, when I hit high school, I didn't take home ec. I didn't get that opportunity. Yeah. I wanted to do it, but it was not available. So, I mean, my elective was band. I was a band student, so I didn't get that. So my girls know. They sew, they bake, they draw. They are like engineers. They build these things. And so when you give children the freedom to learn, explore,
yeah.
That's how you create the next whomever it is.
You open up doors for them that they would have never known these doors existed if we wouldn't expose them to these things. And that's what is going on in the world. The school system is only going to expose you to certain things.
Certain things, and it's the same thing every year. That you just go a little bit in depth into it. Even when you reach college level, it's still the same thing. And it's interesting because of everything that I've dived into. It's like, wait a minute now. It's very interesting. And if we don't know, because we have been indoctrinated to think that I have my babies, in 6 weeks I have to go back to work. Yeah. So I put them into the daycare. And then from daycare, pre-K, they're going to big school now.
They are being indoctrinated from babies.
You know, they're going to big school now, pre-K, and then you go all the way up if you go to higher learning, to colleges and past that. So they're going through a system of feeding. And when you don't know any better, you continue to repeat the process. If you don't, history repeats itself. there's another saying, once you realize that history is based on like truth and facts, then you won't make that same mistake. You will not repeat that again. And so you have to kind of look into public school. You have to look into these private schools too. Now, I ain't saying that, but you have to look into these things, and then you have to understand that you are the authority. At the end of the day, even if you send your child to school, you have the final say. You can go to these board meetings, vote in your local thing. There's something
who's
coming
in charge in the district that your child is in.
Early voting is coming up
for Sci-Fair.
For Sci-Fair, the 23rd, and then you can vote on November 7th, of course. Yeah. But know what's happening and what they're putting in. See, everybody was outraged about Florida. So you in Texas, you knew about Florida's curriculum, but do you know what's happening in Texas and Texas curriculums? And like in the district that you're in, are you going into them schools and saying, hey, this is what I want? Because it can begin at home if you know what is happening, and then you are learning along with your child. And so you can have the authority to say, hey, this is not what it is, because I don't want my child learning this. Or if you have a child, because of how how I do teach, I read the most racist stuff. I don't even know if they need to have that overall that objective mindset though, to know that these things exist, so they know how to act when they get out here in this real world. And so my question to them when I do read something that's outrageous, and that's all it is, it's outrageous. It doesn't even make me upset, because it's like, dang, the time period when it was written and all these things. And I said, that make y'all feel some type of way? They were like, no, because of the time.
They understand.
And all of these things. And I said, exactly. It's not about how you feel.
But that also comes from them being taught up into that point. You didn't just go into racism. They have a clear understanding of where it came from, how it's happened, why it was happening, and then you got to that point. See, when you just throw your child into the school system, they're not giving them reference as to what the things are that they're learning. They're just giving it to them. And I'm going to say this, men, we need to step up. I'm talking to me, I'm talking to you. Because there's certain things we wouldn't have to worry about if we were in the household with our children. We wouldn't have to worry about our children going from daycare to pre-K to regular school, elementary school, middle school, high school, if we allowed our wives or our significant others, which should be your wife, to be a homemaker, to homeschool our children. We need to be the provider, so our women do not have to leave the home and help us to provide. There's a lot of men who haven't taken that approach, and there's a lot of women who won't allow men to take that approach, and there's a whole lot of scenarios. But my point of that is, women should not have to leave the household and send their children to a school. Women should be teaching their own children what they want them to know, the principles, the values, the goals of what it is in their life, in their household, so they can come out and go into the world and have a complete understanding of where they're going, what they need to do, how they need to do it. They don't need no outside influence. The world should not be an influence on them. Yes, they'll be out in the world, but they'll already know what it's going to take to get where they're trying to go. And that influence will not be so much of an influence on them.
I don't know if you listened to it when I had sent it to you, but there was a man, he was being interviewed, and his name is Raymond Moore. And he was saying what you just said. Men need to step up and let their wives stay at home and teach the children. But his thing was, you don't have to keep your children, you don't have to homeschool your children until they're high school age. You homeschool your child until they're about 10. And why it's 10 is because that, I was saying the salt and the light, but they will know they have been with their mother from birth to the age of 10, knowing her ways and knowing what's been said, what not to do, how to do it, all these. About 8 or 10, he said, and then you place them back in, then you can place them into public school. and they'll still be like grounded in what it is because
Absolutely.
they weren't you didn't relinquish them to anyone. They stayed with you. And
That beginning knowledge didn't come from an outside
from
influence.
anybody else.
Yeah.
And so those, how long did Ava go? Like 2 years, 3 years that Ava went. That was 3 years of kind of separation. But and then it wasn't even separation, because when she was coming back home, I was still doing my duty as what I saw fit, reading everything. What is this? What is that?
Yeah.
Still reading to her, still doing that extra thing. But now I just have them full time, and I'm thankful for that, because I'm telling you, because I have grown, and then I've understood how to learn, how to think logically, and to show them that even because as a parent, you can be subjective, but you have to learn how to be objective.
Absolutely.
And that's difficult, because my opinions are, I can go a little a little much, right? And so when I go a little, Ava, my oldest, will kind of change her mind. Like, no, whatever it is that you feel on that, you stand in that. Don't change your mind just because I am feeling this way or whatever. But it does begin at home.
If we think it's a wrong feeling or wrong belief, then we'll correct that. But still, you need to have a mind of your own to make decisions upon your own recognizance.
Like, I feel this way because I've read deeper into it. I'm giving you the basis. So if this is how you feel, go ahead and, feel that. Go ahead and feel that, but don't change your mind because mommy said, or mommy felt, I saw she was upset with that or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, we just got to do better. We have to do better. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. So, like always, it's love, peace, and soul.
Bye.
Like Soul Train, baby. Cheers.